hour, temperatures in low and mid-50s, and then colder weather comes in on Friday with a mixture of sun clouds and a gusty northwest wind. On the Money Matters Radio Network, I'm Mark Rosenthal.
Hey parents, you don't need the latest gizmo, slang, or clothes to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you. For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today, we're talking about the use of life estates and your primary residence. Todd, what are the pitfalls associated with creating a life estate when you transfer the remainder interest to your children?
Yeah, this is the most common way people create life estates. It seems easy, it seems simple, but it's not the best way to create a life estate. Once you put your children's name on the deed, you give up a lot of control. Like you can't change your mind later if you want to leave it to one child versus another who might be taking care of you later. You have problems if you want to go to sell it, right? You might have the right to live there, but if you want to go to sell it, you're going to need the permission of the children in order to sign off on the remainder interest of the deed. And then even if they do sell it and you get their permission, a larger chunk of the proceeds are going to end up in the hands of the child rather than you. That creates adverse income tax consequences to the child, plus you, who sold the house, might need the money to buy another house or a downsized house or move, all of which create problems. Never mind creditor problems for the children while they're living. Folks, don't do the life estate this way because it seems to create more trouble than it's worth.
Learn how you can avoid probate, eliminate estate taxes, keep your money in your family, and protect your assets from the nursing home. Request this brand new guide from Cushing & Dolan. It's called Calculating the Consequences of a Life Estate. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can simply request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We pride ourselves on being able to support veterans in their time of greatest need, ensuring they receive the protections they deserve. For over 100 years, the DAV of Massachusetts has helped thousands of veterans with housing, transportation, and medical assistance, and you can help too. Please visit dav5k.boston and make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane.
Wednesday here on the Financial Exchange. Chuck, Paul, Tucker with you, and we are now over 24 hours into the implementation of the Canada and Mexico tariffs, as well as the jump in the China tariff rate from 10% up to 20%. And sure seems to me, Paul, that we're going to be getting some announcement this afternoon. Treasury Secretary Howard Lutnick has said a number of times now that there's going to likely be some kind of modification and compromise that we see on these tariffs this afternoon, but it's unclear exactly what form that takes, whether it's certain goods that end up being excluded from them, whether it's a reduction in the rate. It does sound like they're not going away entirely based on the interview that I saw this morning. I think it was around 8 a.m. He was on, honestly, I don't know if it's Bloomberg or CNBC. He's on one of the financial news channels. And so I think that where I continue to now land is, look, specifically in the New England region, tariffs would have a huge impact on energy costs just because we get a ton of our energy from Canada in this part of the country. But ultimately, for the entire country, it's something that would raise prices and potentially, force supply chains to be significantly disrupted in the short term. But now we continue to have this uncertainty as to what's the playing field going to look like, and I continue to think that that's just not a great environment for business if you don't know day to day, week to week, what the situation is, because it makes it very challenging for you to want to invest if you don't know if that investment is going to have not a certainty of success. Like, there's always risk, but you don't want additional risk caused by policy moving back and forth too quickly.
It's a great point to emphasize, and I don't think it's been mentioned enough, is the uncertainty in the environment. There's a ripple effect across a bunch of different industries. I mean, we saw, and this is just probably the tip of the iceberg on this, we got some manufacturing data from ISM on Monday this week where we saw new orders on the manufacturing side contract pretty significantly from the month of January. Sentiment from home builders that you talk to or polling there is very negative too, just because of the same thing that we talk about on a daily basis, the uncertainty with tariffs. You know, what we're going to talk about is some of the impacts that these tariffs would have. And specific to home building, you have 70% of both lumber and gypsum, which is used for drywall, coming from either Canada or Mexico. So if you have home builders out there, that amount of uncertainty as to whether or not those products that they're importing from Mexico or Canada are going to be assessed a 25% tariff when they import them over, that will lend to businesses and home builders pausing their efforts. So it would be a lot more helpful, hopefully, over the next 4 to 6 weeks or so, the sooner the better, really, if there was some certainty on what the path forward looks like and how long we're looking at these things for. To wake up this morning, and I wasn't surprised by it.
No, we got signals last night that this was coming.
But why? How are we already here within 24 hours, Chuck, that there's some reversal of positioning? It's just from our job to complain about it. It's hard to track. You know, it's just every hour there's something new.
Well, and I think this is the thing, is you want consistency. And I think that one thing that you got during the first Trump term was largely pretty consistent policy. You know, there were a couple of tariff things here and there. I mean, there was one Mexico tariff scare that lasted, a week and a half. There actually were and still are tariffs that were put in place by the Trump administration on China. But again, consistent kind of a long-term approach that was taken there. But it was, hey, there's going to be tax cuts that come through. Here's how long they're going to be in place for. They're passed, like it's legislated into
depreciation write-off, which also led to a lot of business
you
investment.
You had a situation where the things that happened in that first Trump term were largely, okay, here's what the rules of the road are going to be, and here's how things are going to play out, and businesses loved it, quite honestly. Like it was fantastic. It was a great business environment. And you sit here right now, and I think that the challenge for businesses, and I've talked to a number of different business leaders, and it depends on the industry, who you're talking to, and what they're trying to do. But just as an example, I have one person that I know that is in the process of trying to purchase potentially 2 different consumer goods companies. In the range is, like, we're talking tens of millions of dollars. That, like, it's not them personally, their company is looking to do this. And they're not sure that they are going to pull the trigger on it because basically all of the goods that this company makes are imported. And so he's sitting there saying, I don't know what to pay for these companies, actually, because I don't know what their revenues and profits are going to look like, because I don't know what the tariff situation is going to be. So you have, someone saying, look, I'm not going to make that investment until I have more certainty. You have other people in the housing industry, as an example. I have a builder that I know who I've been asking him, like, what's the deal? He's like, I'm finishing up the projects that I have right now, but as far as like new stuff that's in the pipeline,
why put the shovels in the ground?
He's still doing some because like he's got to earn a living and he's got to take some risk. But he's like, I'm basically trying to take like 30 to 40% of the risk that I previously would from a capital perspective. And that means either, hey, I'm going to have fewer, permits that I pull, or I'm going to pull in more partners to help spread the risk around. Like there's different stuff that he's doing on that end. So I think ultimately the uncertainty has the potential to create a slowdown, even without implementation of all the tariffs in all different places. And this is the piece that I keep coming back to, which is, the uncertainty that we are used to seeing in the economy is, will consumers keep spending? Will this trend in AI continue? It's stuff.
What's unemployment going to do?
Yeah, it's stuff related to like the broader economy and things like that. And this, at least in the short term, and I'm not saying this will stick around. It may not. Like, this may pass in 6 weeks from now. We may be like, okay, like, we're through that and it's not a problem anymore. But one of the things right now is uncertainty as it relates to how the federal government is going to be implementing trade policy, how long, at what rates for tariffs. There's just something there that is causing some hesitation in businesses in the short term. And the sooner it's resolved, the sooner I think that you can see, potentially some positive movement on that front. At this point, the data that we are seeing is that the economy is slowing. I don't think that anyone needs to be talking about recession right now. I mean, I've seen some people, out there being like, oh, it's the Trump session. It's like, guys, like, it's been 6 weeks. The data is not showing like that kind of stuff. And I see people pointing to the Atlanta Fed GDP now, which is, showing, negative almost 3% right now. And I'm like, basically, even like people who study this stuff are like, yeah, it's probably going to bounce back because of how the impacts of certain reports are in here. So let's pump the brakes a little bit on the recession talk right now. I love how just everyone always wants to jump there. We've seen so many false recession calls the last few years. And it's not to say that this one will or won't, but guys, the economic data has gotten worse for like 3 weeks now. We got to pump the brakes a little bit if we're going to be calling 3 weeks of bad data a recession, because 3 weeks of bad data happens like 3 to 4 times a year. And I can't deal with 4 recession calls a year that we have to make. So let's pump the brakes on the recession talk, and let's see how things develop over the next couple months or so. Let's be patient and see what happens here. And if we do see that the data ends up worsening from here, and that becomes a potential reality, okay, great, let's talk about it. But guys, I can't do recession talk after a couple weeks of bad data. I can't do that because it's going to drive me insane, quite honestly. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, let's see, tariffs. Why don't we talk about tariffs as it relates to energy and food, just because those are things that people need. We need energy, and we need food, lots of it. And so we'll talk a little bit about how tariffs could impact pricing in those areas.
Business and financial news affecting the markets and your wallet. We've got it all straight from Wall Street, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Developing the right financial strategy can be complicated, especially in today's economic climate. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the most important pieces to this puzzle is the trust you have with the advisor you choose to work with. We've written a brand new guide called What Can an Advisor Do for Me? In it, we discuss a host of reasons why picking the right one can be critical to your peace of mind as you age. A financial advisor is much more than someone who simply manages your money. A financial advisor can help you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your portfolio, the various changes you may need to make to achieve your goals, and the way you may be able to protect your assets as you enter your retirement years. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Life estates are complicated, and they can cause problems if you're using them to protect your assets from the nursing home. Don't risk losing control over your estate. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes, and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean Paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Wall Street Watch, a full update on the market's performance to date. Weekdays at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, and if you act now, you can take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and get a $250 per person airline credit when you book a minimum 5-night stay at participating hotels. Go to visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2025 to reserve your trip today. Take your next vacation to St. Croix in America's Caribbean Paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2025 to book your trip. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Okay, so there's a company by the name of Gas Buddy. They got a big website. Their whole thing is they track gas prices across the United States. And the guy who runs it, or at least he's like the main face of it, is a guy by the name of Patrick DeHaan. And Patrick is, I look at him and generally, I followed him, on various social media platforms for the last, 8-10 years. And he's pretty darn good when it comes to what happens to gas prices, in different situations. And he posted a piece on the Gas Buddy website yesterday. It's titled Beyond Tariffs, U.S. Refineries and the Continued Reliance on Canadian Crude. And this gets at the tariff issue in that as part of the tariffs implemented yesterday, there was a 10% tariff on Canadian energy exports to the U.S. Not the 25% that everything else gets, but a 10%. And he answers a few different questions. The first is, okay, why don't we just move away from using Canadian crude as part of, our supply in the U.S.? And the first thing is the infrastructure isn't built for it.
Right.
There are pipelines that are built that are designed to have oil flowing one way. You can't just reverse the flow and be like, no, send it back to Canada. There's no reverse button. It's not Uno where you put the card down and you're like, reverse. So you can't do that, first of all. The second piece is that refiners in the oil business, there's not just one kind of oil, and so refineries have to be built to process very specific types of oil. And so the oil refineries that take oil from Canada, which is a very, it's called heavy sour crude, as opposed to the light sweet crude that we're more familiar with, you have specialized equipment that they spend billions of dollars on in order to process it. You can't just run light sweet crude through the same refineries and get the same product because it would produce something different. So you can't just say, no, we're going to move away from this because the entire ecosystem is not set up to be able to move away from it instantly. So the problem is particularly profound in the Northeast. Basically, the region that he identifies as Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and upstate New York. So New England plus the northern part of New York. I'm going to quote from him here. So this is not me, this is him. If you're filling up in the Northeast, you'll see price increases first and more significantly, as a significant portion of this region's fuel comes from the Irving Oil Refinery in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. The refined products crossing the border would immediately incur the tariff cost. By the way, that Irving Refinery announced price increases at 12:01 a.m. yesterday. And by mid-March 2025, 10 days from now, Northeast could expect fuel prices, including gasoline, diesel, and other petroleum products, to be 20 to 40 cents per gallon higher. For a typical 15-gallon fill-up, that's an additional $3 to $6 every time you visit the pump. The rest of the country would see smaller jumps because they're not as dependent on Canadian oil imports. The Midwest would see prices rise by 5 to 20 cents a gallon, Great Lakes 10 to 25 cents a gallon, the Rockies 10 to 20 cents a gallon, and the Southeast would see negligible impacts because they get a lot of their oil from the Gulf and imported from overseas and stuff like that. So it's not as big of an impact. But basically, the northern part of the country, out until Minnesota, would feel these impacts, and with the Northeast being most heavily impacted on the fuel side of things. We'll see if one of the changes that may end up happening today could be, hey, maybe you exempt energy products from these tariffs entirely. I don't know that that's going to be the case, but obviously if that were the case, then these price increases don't end up going through because you now have to compete with other domestic products, and so blah, 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 you're, back to normal pricing. So I think that on the energy side of things, certainly there's the potential for some uptick in gas prices as a result of this. The counter is that Saudi Arabia has basically thrown in the towel on trying to keep oil prices high, and so global crude prices are falling now into the mid-60s, down a few percent, so that could offset some of this.
Yeah, it's almost, if this continued on this trend from a pricing standpoint, you wouldn't even feel the impacts of it just because of the ways that they were moving in different directions. Where
if you got oil down to 60 instead of 66 where it is now,
right?
Yeah,
and we were sitting at $80 a barrel on January 15th for West Texas Intermediate. So it just points to the drop that we've seen over the course of the last a month and a half or so. And a lot of that, I believe, is 138,000 of increase in output from OPEC Plus.
And they've said that by April, they're basically going to let all of their producers go.
Okay.
They have 2 million barrels a day that they're going to be have at it. Mm-hmm. Now, the downside to this, when we talk about the OPEC Plus piece, is if you've watched nat gas prices in the last week since the announcement, they're moving up further. And the reason why is that OPEC Plus doesn't produce much natural gas because of how they produce oil. It's not using a ton of hydraulic fracking, and stuff like that. Instead, it's more conventional processes that don't produce as much nat gas as really kind of like a byproduct and kind of an offshoot of those processes. So nat gas prices, if you look at the futures contracts that are out there, in the last week, nat gas has gone from $3.95 per million cubic feet or whatever the heck it is to $4.35, up 10% in that time. Why does this matter for anyone listening? If you're in any part of the country and you use natural gas to either heat your home, or if it's one of the primary feeders for your utility that generates power for you, higher costs coming on the heating side and on the electricity side because of that. So there's, again, a lot at play here, but ultimately energy prices, just a ton of balls here in the air, and we don't know exactly where they're going to go, but tariffs, if they stay in place, all else being equal, pushing those costs up somewhat.
Let's talk about some of the food stuff. Certainly avocados is one that would be a direct impact.
I stocked up yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chipotle has mentioned, I believe, that they're going to try to absorb the additional costs from these tariffs for the time being, but others out there saying that they would, like Target came out and said that their produce, that they're going to be increasing prices very quickly. There's not enough avocados sourced here in the United States to cover the amount of demand, particularly in the winter, very difficult to grow. And this applies for all sorts of different produce items, a lot that are sourced from Mexico. Coffee, we have some domestic production, but
very little.
Yeah.
Also, breaking news, I don't know who reported it originally, but it's a chyron on Bloomberg right now, that Canada, according to an official, will not lift their retaliatory tariffs unless all U.S. tariffs are lifted. So we'll see if that throws a wrench in any of the plans this afternoon for potential tariff relief. I don't know if it will.
Was it all U.S. tariffs blanket through, or just towards Canada?
Towards Canada.
Yeah, okay.
So it seems like there is a call scheduled between President Trump and President Trudeau. Is it President or Prime Minister? Prime Minister Trudeau. Yes, in sometime this morning. We'll see what comes of it. Quick break. Wall Street Watch and Ask Todd are next.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025. Life estates are complicated, and they can cause problems if you're using them to protect your assets from the nursing home. Don't risk losing control over your estate. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Managing money can be overwhelming. Investments, retirement, taxes, where do you even start? This is Susan Powers, and today I'm joined by Michael Armstrong, co-host of the Financial Exchange and the president of Armstrong Advisory Group, to break it down. First question, Mike. What's the biggest reason someone should work with a financial advisor?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Like, a financial advisor can help you set and reach financial goals, whether that's saving for retirement, buying a home, protecting your estate. They can create personalized strategies that align with your income and expenses and risk tolerance. Plus, financial planning just isn't one and done. Typically you'll adjust your plan as life changes. And so having somebody that's knowledgeable alongside there that can guide you through those different stages of life is really important.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about people who think that they can manage their finances and investments on their own? What do they miss out on?
Look, I'm not blind to this. Some people can, and it requires a bit of an honest self-assessment. But if you're not looking at key factors like tax strategies, investment relevant risk, long-term planning. Those are areas where financial advisors can really help to come in, maximize returns while keeping an eye on risk-adjusted returns, optimizing asset allocation, and just minimizing those unnecessary risks that we see so frequently taken by folks. So there can be a place for one in people's lives, but it's not a one for everybody.
If you want professional financial guidance, reach out to the Armstrong Advisory Group today to request your free copy of our new guide, What Can a Financial Advisor Do for Me? Call 800-393-4001 to start securing your financial future. That number again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, after yesterday's wild ride, markets today are mostly quiet in mixed territories. Investors await more developments on the tariff front after Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said he expected an announcement on an agreement with Canada and Mexico. Wall Street's also assessing a weaker-than-expected ADP private payrolls report ahead of Friday's all-important jobs report. At the moment, the Dow is up by 111 points, about 0.25%. S&P 500 is completely flat, and the NASDAQ is down merely 7 points. Russell 2000 edging 3 points higher. 10-year Treasury yield is up by 2 basis points at 4.23%, and crude oil is down by 3% so far today, trading just above $66 a barrel. After its 7% tumble this week as a result of concerns about further export restrictions, Nvidia shares are flat today. Auto stocks are also seeing more attention in reaction to the tariffs and are bouncing back on the hopes that the 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada won't last long. Ford up by 3%, GM up by 4%, and Stellantis shares up by 6%. Meanwhile, CrowdStrike down by 10% after the cybersecurity company swung to a quarterly loss due to higher expenses, even as sales jumped. Elsewhere, FanDuel parent company Flutter Entertainment posted fourth quarter results that beat expectations, sending shares in the sports betting and gambling operator up modestly. Box down by 5% after the cloud company's top-line guidance fell short of estimates, while its fourth quarter revenue narrowly beat street forecasts. And Novo Nordisk said this morning it will offer its weight loss drug Wegovy for less than half of its usual price per month through a new direct-to-consumer online pharmacy. That stock is up by 4%. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutsky is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutsky.
As promised, we're joined by the one and only Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. We call the segment Ask Todd because you get to ask Todd your questions about your estate plan. We got the phone lines open at 888-205-2263. Remember, we usually only get through 2 to 3 of your calls. So, to ask a question of Todd, get calling early. Again, that number is 888-205-2263, and this is your chance to ask Todd your estate planning questions. Again, that number is 888-205-2263. Mr. Lutsky, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
I got to tell you, I used to be against organ transplants.
Yeah.
I had a change of heart.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about life estates. What is a life estate?
Well, it's actually a property ownership. It's a property right is what it is. And people oftentimes get confused by that. It's a nugget of ownership in your, let's say your home, for example. And that's really the one that you want to talk about. You want to do life estates primarily for your home, or if you have like a multifamily, that's okay. And you're living in it, of course. And basically it equals X. I hate to do it X plus Y. So let's say you've got $1 million piece of property. X plus Y equals, $1 million. And so when you have a life estate, you have this right to live there and the right to collect income and the right to pay bills. That would be X. The Y part is the remainder interest that you gave away to somebody. And that's the key in a life estate in terms of how to calculate it, right? It's whatever piece you give to someone else. Could be kids, could be nieces and nephews, could be an irrevocable Medicaid trust, which I certainly like a lot better. So 2 ways to create it. One, putting the remainder interest in the hands of the kids. 2, putting the remainder interest in the hands of a irrevocable trust. So that's the 2 ways to create it, and both have an X and a Y. The X is always your life, your nugget of ownership that you have, which is great. It allows you to live in your property, it allows you to keep your mortgages, etc.
Talking with Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. To ask Todd a question live on air right now, call 888-205-2263. Still a little bit of room on the phone lines. Again, 888-205-2263. That is the number to call to speak to Todd Lutsky about your estate planning questions. Let's go to a quick break here, but when we come back, it's going to be right to your questions with Todd. Again, that number is 888-205-2263.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Developing the right financial strategy can be complicated, especially in today's economic climate. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the most important pieces to this puzzle is the trust you have with the advisor you choose to work with. We've written a brand new guide called What Can an Advisor Do for Me? In it, we discuss a host of reasons why picking the right one can be critical to your peace of mind as you age. A financial advisor is much more than someone who simply manages your money. A financial advisor can help you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your portfolio, the various changes you may need to make to achieve your goals, and the way you may be able to protect your assets as you enter your retirement years. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. A sound estate plan has many layers. In some cases, using a life estate can be a beneficial piece of your plan, but they also can be problematic. Call Cushing & Dolan, the experts in Elder Law, at 866-848-5699 and request their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. Building the proper estate plan not only protects your assets from the nursing home, but also helps you avoid probate and potentially eliminates estate taxes. So be aware of the many problems life estates can cause before you create one. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and request this new guide. In it, you'll learn about the significant effects that life estates can have on your estate plan, including the possibility of losing control of your estate. Call 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, the grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
You're listening to Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Still got room on the phone lines at 888-205-2263. So if you got estate planning questions for Todd, that number is 888-205-2263. 2263. One more time, 888-205-2263. Let's go to Jimmy from Provincetown. Jimmy, you are on with Todd Lutsky. What's your question?
Hi, Todd. This is Jimmy.
Hi, Jimmy.
I'm calling in regards to the irrevocable trust that you set up for my family back in 2016.
Okay.
We have a Cape property that is going to be sold probably this year.
Okay.
And I was reading stuff about step-up basis when a property is sold from an irrevocable trust.
Yes. I can tell you one that whatever you're reading has to be incorrect. The only way, and this is a great question for everybody, by the way, Jim, the only way somebody gets a step up in basis in property is to die owning it, period. Okay? So if I have a piece of property that I bought for $100,000 and today it's worth $500,000, the gain is $400,000, which is the difference between the cost basis and the fair market value. If I sell that property while I am alive, that $400,000 remains a $400,000 gain. Okay? If, on the other hand, I decide never to sell this property and I ultimately pass away and my children or anybody, it doesn't have to be a child, but somebody inherits the property as a result of my passing, then, and let's say on the date of my death, the value of that property is $500,000, then it's as if the basis in the hands of the person who inherited it is $500,000. So they can sell it and the gain is zero. But that is the only way to get a step up. So when you put your house in the irrevocable trust, thankfully you haven't died yet. So you gave the irrevocable trust your cost basis. So it's the same as if you were selling it not inside the trust. The gain will be exactly the same. So hopefully that's helpful for you. So, and that's for everybody, by the way, folks. So no problem. And by the way, Jim, you absolutely can sell it. You can buy another house. The trust is that flexible. You can move. Give the office a call, though, if you want to be some representation on the sale, just to make sure you don't mess up the 5-year waiting period if you decide to buy and sell. Folks, I hope that helps. Let me tell you, though, that's important to understand because that also can be impacted with the guide we're giving away is calculating the consequences of a life estate. What that means is many people, in this case, Jim didn't do that. He didn't put his house in a life estate, which I like. I'd much rather put it in the irrevocable trust. But people give away houses to children, retain the right to live there. You need to understand the gift tax consequences that go with that, the estate tax consequences that go with that, the potential income tax consequences when you go to sell it or try to sell it. We talked about selling it for Jim from the trust, but can you sell it once it's in one of these life estates, right? How much control you give up over it? What are the creditor implications to the children who become owners on the day you make the gift or set up the life estate? There are pros and cons, folks. Get the guide. If you've done a life estate, get it so you can understand exactly what you've done and maybe you want to get out of it. Or 2, if you're thinking about doing it, call and get the guide before you do it. 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. Again, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com.
Todd, I got another one queued up for you here. Let's go to Rick in Chatham. Rick, what's your question for Todd Lutsky?
Hey, Todd. If you have a irrevocable trust and you have your house in it and you have a life estate so you can stay there, my question is, if you sell the house and downsize, does that life estate go with it, or do you have to re-downsize it or whatever?
Yeah, so great idea. So this is your primary residence, you're saying, that's in the trust we're talking about?
Correct.
Okay, super. How long ago did you set up that irrevocable trust and put the house in?
We're about 4 years. We haven't made it all the way yet.
Oh, but that's good, right? So 4 years is a good stretch. So that's in there. And you say we, so I'm assuming that you're married?
Correct.
Okay, super.
And we're both. Yeah.
So here's the story. If you take that house, if you want to, and you heard Jim, can you sell it? Yes, you can. So in your case, you're asking me again if you sell it, right? And you want to downsize.
Right.
So here's what would happen. Out would go the property, in would come money. But how much money, right? And this is the issue with a life estate. Instead of putting the entire property in the trust, in this case, in your case, you put what is known as the remainder interest in the trust and kept a nugget of ownership called the right to live there. Okay, that's the life estate. So let's call that X plus Y, the remainder interest, equals the value of the property. Okay, so how much is the house worth?
About $900,000.
Okay, so let's just call it 900. Okay, so X plus Y equals 900. How old are you guys?
She's 70. I'm 65.
So let's just go with 70 for now. So what's going to happen is you're going to be able to sell it first and foremost. I don't know if your trust is a grantor trust or not. Let's assume it is for income tax purposes, which simply means there won't be any adverse income tax consequences from the sale if it's a grantor trust. So if that's the case, you will go to let's say you're selling it this month. You will go to an IRS interest rate table called the applicable federal rate, which is 7520 of the code, and they'll give you a rate. I don't know what it is today. And then you take that percentage rate and you go find table S of the IRS code. Simple enough to pull up on the on the Google. And you will look up your age. 70-year-old, go down the column till you find 70. Go across, and they will give you a percentage. So what is the percentage ownership interest in a life estate for someone 70 years old? It's given right there. I'm going to just go on a limb here and say it's probably 30%, 35%. Okay, let's say 35%. So what that means is 65% represents the remainder interest, which is in the trust. So when you go to sell it, out will go the real estate to the buyer, and the buyer's attorney will cut 2 checks. One check for 65% of the proceeds, approximately. Again, I'm guessing on what that number is. and that will be deposited in the trust bank account that you will have to open up when this is sold under an ID number that you get from the IRS regarding that trust. Then there'll be another check from the buyer's attorney. 35% of the proceeds will go to you and your wife directly. Why? Because you're the life tenant. So you do have that nugget of ownership represents a percentage of the proceeds. And you put that in your pocket. Now, the good news is, from an income tax standpoint, assuming this is a grantor trust and you're married, you would get to retain your $500,000 capital gains exclusion associated with the sale of your primary residence. So in English, that means the first $500,000 of gain is not taxed to you guys, okay? And that wouldn't matter because even though a portion went to the trust and a portion went to you, if it's a grantor trust, the entire gain ends up getting reported on your personal income tax return. It's a flow-through from the trust to your personal return. So the gain that went to the trust goes to your return, and the gain that went to you as life tenants get picked up on your personal return. So no adverse tax consequence. Allocate the gain between the two. Of course, now your next question would be, I have no house because I sold it, so I guess I'm technically homeless. Well, I'm going to buy another house. You can do that. Out would go the money. Again, the trustee would sign all the paperwork, distributing the money out to a seller, and the seller's attorney would prepare a deed putting the property back in the trust. Now, if you do it that way, there'll be no more life estate. So I think that's really your question, right? What's going to happen? Well, if I use just the money in the trust to buy the new house is not going to have a life estate. Not that it needs it. It doesn't. You still have all the benefits of living there, paying the bills, etc. And it would remain protected from the cost of long-term care. Not yet. You still have 1 year to go. But the 4-year clock is not disrupted from this transaction. I think that's very important for you to note. So that 4-year clock remains 4 years. So 1 more year and the new house will be as protected as the old house would have been. What's the downside of a life estate in this arrangement? The 35% of the proceeds that went to you are now included in your bank account and at risk all over again for the cost of nursing home care. It might not be a problem. You want the money, spend it, have a good time with it, up to you. If, lastly, you don't have enough money in the trust because 35% didn't hit the trust account, you can contribute the money to the trust, start a new 5-year waiting period only on the contributed money, and then you add that to the money to buy the new property. Long-winded answer, but I hope it covers everything.
Mr. Lutsky, thank you so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Still a lot more coming in the second hour of the Financial Exchange. We'll talk a little bit about the state of play between the U.S. and China. Very different situation than what we're seeing in terms of possible tariff negotiations between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Also, there's a two-headed monster stalking the economy, and it has a name. We'll tell you what the name is in Hour 2 on the Financial Exchange. Quick break. See you in a bit.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Life estates are complicated, and they can cause problems if you're using them to protect your assets from the nursing home. Don't risk losing control over your estate. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Managing money can be overwhelming. Investments, retirement, taxes, where do you even start? This is Susan Powers, and today I'm joined by Michael Armstrong, co-host of the Financial Exchange and the president of Armstrong Advisory Group, to break it down. First question, Mike. What's the biggest reason someone should work with a financial advisor?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Like, a financial advisor can help you set and reach financial goals, whether that's saving for retirement, buying a home, protecting your estate. They can create personalized strategies that align with your income and expenses and risk tolerance. Plus, financial planning just isn't one and done. Typically, you'll adjust your plan as life changes. And so having somebody that's knowledgeable alongside there that can guide you through those different stages of life is really important.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about people who think that they can manage their finances and investments on their own? What do they miss out on?
Look, I'm not blind to this. Some people can, and it requires a bit of an honest self-assessment. But if you're not looking at key factors like tax strategies, investment risk, long-term planning, those are areas where financial advisors can really help to come in, maximize returns while keeping an eye on risk-adjusted returns, optimizing asset allocation, and just minimizing those unnecessary risks that we see so frequently taken by folks. So there can be a place for one in people's lives, but it's not a one for everybody.
If you want professional financial guidance, reach out to the Armstrong Advisory Group today to request your free copy of our new guide, What Can a Financial Advisor Do for Me? Call 800-393-4001 to start securing your financial future. That number again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News & World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
A sound estate plan has many layers. In some cases, using a life estate can be a beneficial piece of your plan, but they also can be problematic. Call Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law, at 866-848-5699 and request their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. Building the proper estate plan not only protects your assets from the nursing home, but also helps you avoid probate and potentially eliminates estate taxes. So be aware of the many problems life estates can cause before you create one. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and request this new guide. In it, you'll learn about the significant effects that life estates can have on your estate plan, including the possibility of losing control of your estate. Call 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Paul Lane.
Hour 2 of the Financial Exchange kicking off here. It's Chuck, Paul, and Tucker with you, and we got markets not really doing much of anything, quite honestly. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, or the DJIA, as it's more commonly known, is up 42 points right now. That's a 0.1% increase. The S&P 500 or the S&P 500 as it's more widely known, is down 7 points, so about 0.1%, no major movement there. NASDAQ's off 0.1% as well, down 18 points, so again, pretty quiet after the last week or so of fireworks that we've seen. 10-year U.S. Treasury seeing a little bit of a sell-off, reversing its recent downward momentum. It's up 4.7 basis points to 4.257%. Again, nothing huge there, and still in a pretty solid short-term downtrend. We got oil selling off bigly today. The price on West Texas Intermediate is down $2.40 a barrel to $65.86. So you got oil prices moving down pretty steadily on the back of OPEC plus output increases that were announced. Gold today is up $8.30 an ounce to $29.28.90. And the AAA national average for gas prices up, 0.8 of a cent to $3.10 7/10 right now. No major movement yet as a result of the tariffs that were implemented yesterday. But if they do end up sticking around, you'd expect to see that start filtering through in the next week or two, predominantly in the Northeast, Midwest, and Great Lakes region. But parts of the country might feel different impacts from others. Ultimately, if you do have lower oil prices, it'll offset some of that, but you still might see some higher prices at the pump if those tariffs do end up sticking around. A reminder, Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce, has said that they are anticipating a potential announcement this afternoon with regards to a tariff compromise. Also this morning, Justin Trudeau, or at least an official from the Canadian government, said that they would not, Canada would not remove its tariffs unless all U.S. tariffs on Canada that were just implemented yesterday were removed. So we'll see where these negotiations go, but this is the current state of play on this. Speaking of tariffs, also implemented yesterday was an additional 10% jump in tariffs on China. No one's really talking about this, which is fascinating to me, and part of me is almost like, is this kind of the plan to just raise tariffs on China stealthily by giving everyone something else to look at, the day that you're doing it? Because no one's talking about the fact that tariffs on all imports from China have just gone from 0 to 20% in the past 2 months. Now, granted, there was a small subset of goods that had tariffs on it to begin with. I think it was maybe a third of Chinese exports had tariffs that were implemented during the first Trump administration and have continued to this point. But this is a broader implementation that you've seen. And the fascinating thing is, with all of the chatter and hubbub about Canada and Mexico, there's no one paying attention to this.
Right. It is certainly less talked about. In terms of impact, a couple companies domestically in the United States that have at least spoken about the impact to its business has been the toy makers, Hasbro and Mattel. Hasbro specifically, 40% of its toys are imported from China. So the longer that these are in place, you're going to see price increases on that side of things. But I do wonder, Chuck, if the reason that this hasn't been emphasized as much as some of the other impacts of tariffs from Canada and Mexico is because Walmart had talked about this. This has been something that's been ongoing for 7 or 8 years, just the scrutiny on China.
Sure.
Not because I'm not saying tariffs were in to this scale certainly 7 or 8 years ago, but Walmart has mentioned, hey, we've been dealing with this tariff situation for 7 or 8 years, and we have contingency plans in place to route things through other areas of Asia, whether it be Vietnam, Cambodia, or others. So I wonder if maybe that's part of it. Obviously, there's small businesses out there that don't have the flexibility of some of these behemoths to pivot their supply chain, on a dime and be able to circumvent these. But I wonder if that plays a slight role into some of this. And it just doesn't seem like people are as averse, of course, to tariffs on China as well from a collective standpoint.
No, and I think that this is one area where, and again, I know that everyone's got like their own views on this, but I've kind of been of the opinion, look, like I view China as a significant adversarial threat to the United States, and I think putting meaningful economic pressure on China in ways that you can and that are actually enforceable, outside of, trying to construct agreements with China, because the Chinese government doesn't have a great history of holding up their end of the bargain. And so, I think hey, if you want to put a little bit of pressure on China through a ratcheting up of tariffs, with the understanding that, yeah, it is going to create some issues as far as, raising those prices domestically. It certainly will. And the potential for the Chinese government to retaliate, not so much against, U.S. exports to China just because the dollar volume isn't as high, but potentially against U.S. companies operating in China and things like that.
You saw the Google story that we covered a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, expect more of that, investigations into U.S. companies operating in China and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but this is something that is, in my opinion, worthwhile. And look, what does my opinion count for? I don't know. I'm one person. I'm sitting here. We all have opinions, and I could tell you the famous phrase about opinions and how they smell, but, I'm not going to do that right now. But ultimately, it's something where I think that there's some meat here in terms of this feels to me like a more concrete and consistent goal of this administration than implementing any kind of long-standing tariffs on Canada and Mexico. I don't really get the sense that the Trump administration wants high tariffs on Canada and Mexico for any extended period of time. I do get the sense that they want them on China.
Yeah, it had been rumored during the campaign trail that the Chinese tariffs could get as high as perhaps 60%. It would just be the increments of 10. Again, that's speculation.
Wouldn't
there.
it be wild if we just sneakily got there over 6 months and
no
one's paying attention to it?
It's kind of the way it's trending. It's basically 10% a month,
We're
right?
a third of the way there.
Yeah. So that's a potential. But I would agree with you that I hold the view that the idea of the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, because of the free trade agreement, because of the proximity that United States has to those two countries and the amount of imports there, that I at least hope from an economic perspective it's much shorter lived. And I get a little hesitant when I quote statistics as to what the calendar year impact of those import tariffs could be, just because who knows if they're going to be here tomorrow, let alone 6 months from now.
Yes, it's tough to discuss the annual impact of Canada tariffs when this afternoon
and then
everything could be different.
My comment's just going to look ridiculous.
Yeah, which is why I'm at the point now where on the tariff side of things, I've kind of said I'm not really going to get into the predictions until they're implemented or not. We'll take it day by day, which is all anyone can do. Isn't that right?
That's what I always tell my wife. She gets annoyed with that phrasing. But yep, that's how you got to do it.
I just try to take it lifetime by lifetime. That's all someone can do.
What are you, a cat? 9 lives?
As a matter of fact, I am. Let's take a quick break. Who was do you guys remember the lawyer back during the pandemic that turned himself into a cat on Zoom and couldn't figure out how to decatify himself?
He was out of Texas, right?
Somewhere like Texas, Oklahoma, something.
Yeah.
Help, I'm a cat. It was just fantastic. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, we've got a little bit of trivia right after this.
Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
In today's economic climate, managing your finances can be a full-time job. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our experienced team of advisors understands the challenges that exist and the questions you may have when it comes to your own financial strategy. Our new guide is called What Can a Financial Advisor Do for Me? In it, we'll help you find answers to some of those questions. At Armstrong Advisory, we can provide you with information that may help you with decisions about your investments. Our team can also advise you of the need to work with a professional in other areas, such as taxes, estate planning, or insurance. Understanding the role these elements play in a well-rounded financial plan is extremely important. Give the Armstrong Advisory Group a call at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. A sound estate plan has many layers. In some cases, using a life estate can be a beneficial piece of your plan, but they also can be problematic. Call Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law, at 866-848-5699 and request their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. Building the proper estate plan not only protects your assets from the nursing home, but also helps you avoid probate and potentially eliminates estate taxes. So be aware of the many problems life estates can cause before you create one. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and request this new guide. In it, you'll learn about the significant effects that life estates can have on your estate plan, including the possibility of losing control of your estate. Call 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Heads up, athletes, coaches, and parents. Play for life, not just points. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM, is the leading cause of sudden cardiac death, especially in black athletes in sports like football or basketball. If you feel shortness of breath, chest pain, and fatigue, or have a family history of HCM, talk to your doctor. Don't let HCM bench you for good. Learn how to stay in the game at heart.org/HCM student athlete. Your heart, your health, your move.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is proud of our partnership with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. This year's 5K will be here before you know it, so mark your calendars for Saturday, November 8th. We'll be keeping you updated on registration information in the coming weeks, but in the meantime, if you want to help our great American heroes right now, just visit dav5k.boston, where you can make a donation today and support programs such as the Veterans Transportation Program, which takes injured vets to their medical appointments. That's dav5k.boston. Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange. And on this day back in 2002, the reality show The Osbournes debuted on MTV. The show featured legendary rocker Ozzy Osbourne and his family and was a ratings hit for the network. Trivia question today, pretty easy one. Which pioneering heavy metal band did Ozzy Osbourne co-found back in 1968? Once again, which pioneering heavy metal band did Ozzy Osbourne co-found in 1968? Be the 8th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the 8th correct response to text us at 617-362-1385. We'll get that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
The two-headed monster stalking the economy has a name. Jim. Stagflation is actually the word that Nick Timmerhouse uses in the headline. He probably didn't write the headline. He's the journalist, not the headline writer. But his first sentence is a doozy. Stagflation has entered the chat. So, here's, if you're not familiar with the idea of stagflation, it's you take a male deer and... No, sorry, this piece just cracks me up a little bit. Not because I have anything against Nick. I actually think he does a great job with his work. But stagflation is the idea of an economy that slows down while at the same time inflation goes up. And we had a stagflationary economy in the first half of 2022. It didn't last very long. It lasted about 5 months or so. But you had an economy that was effectively seeing nominal GDP growth slowing and real GDP as a result of rising inflation. And so it was a very, very uncomfortable time. Now, things don't have to be as dramatic as that to end up in, what you could consider to be stagflation. But I think that there is a pretty big leap to say that we're heading into a stagflationary period right now, just because normally, most of the time when you see a significant slowdown in the economy, it's usually caused by a drop in demand, at least in recent history, and drops in demand typically produce downward pricing pressure because companies try to unload their inventory any way they can, and so that's why generally the proof, what you do in order to try to end inflation is almost induce a recession, because the recession ends the inflationary impulse as a result of the dropping demand and dropping sentiment when it comes to inflation. So the piece here that Nick lays out is, hey, here's why this could be different. And I think that this is, a viable consideration, which is, yes, you have the U.S. government talking about reducing federal spending, which in the short term reduces demand and potentially, some other demand reductions as a result of that. At the same time, you've got these tariff implementations that could reshape supply chains and drive some costs up. And so it does present the possibility for a stagflationary situation to develop. The timing on all of this and how it plays out, I think, is going to matter in terms of what gets implemented first, how it gets implemented, the scale, the magnitude of all this, and how long it all lasts. So I think that when we talk about stagflation, it's something that now, if you look at it, you can put it on your, bingo card and say, yeah, maybe there's a greater chance of this now than in most situations. But I almost always look at the idea of stagflation as something that is an edge case and not something that I would put as a most likely probability, just because
so many things need to go wrong at once.
Yes, and in like the right order for it to occur that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's historical
or the wrong order.
There's historical precedent, obviously, with the 70s. That's the one period of time where we have the supply shock specific to the oil and energy markets. Those dynamics aren't the same today in terms of where we stand from an oil and energy perspective, but it's worth having a discussion on the subject, but I'm unwilling to venture too far down the road of making some sort of prognostication as to how this could impact the economy because of that point. It's just so many different things to have rising inflation, rising unemployment and falling demand and supply shocks at the same time. That cocktail mix is really hard to get at the same point in time. There's factors out there that's worth talking about because of these tariffs that have been put into place. But what we've seen on a night-to-night, an hour-to-hour basis, it's too far to project this down the road because we don't even know how long this alleged supply shock on the tariff side of things will be present.
No, and look, if you see a significant slowdown as a result of tariffs, one of the things that you typically see associated with that is a drop in oil prices because there's a big drop in demand for energy products. And so it's kind of hard to have inflation at any meaningful level if energy prices are falling because that filters into so many other parts of the U.S. economy. It's not just that one line item on the CPI. It's, hey, that factors into food prices because of the cost of transporting, food and things like that. It factors into housing costs because of the cost of, producing and transporting the materials and stuff like that. So I think that, we can hold stagflation out there and say, hey, let's pay attention because if things go really wrong, that's where you could end up. But I'm not there right now to be able to say, yeah, this is where things are going. I keep it as a possibility, but that's all it is. Likewise, we also have this piece from another piece from Mohamed El Arian, who he used to run he was the CEO at PIMCO, who was the largest bond mutual fund operator in the world. At least they were at the time he was there. I don't know if they are anymore, given the changes in that landscape. But he's a smart dude. Like, Mohammed knows his stuff. And he's got a piece today in Bloomberg Opinion titled U.S. Recession Odds Are Becoming Unsettlingly High. And it talks about some of the economic indicators that are, potentially indicating a slowdown. Treasury bond yields falling as a result of, some slowing growth in the last month or so. Oil prices slipping, something else that you typically see. And so he notes, look, I'll quote from him, while still relatively low, my probability of a recession has increased from 10% at the beginning of the year to 25 to 30% today. Well, unless you're like a trader, I don't know that tells you anything. Like, I don't know that does anything for you. What do you do with that? If you're someone, how do you plan for a 25% chance of recession versus a 10%? And also, how do you know that you're right? Because it wasn't him, but I think it was the Bloomberg. It was like a board that they had back at the end of 2022 said that there was a 100% chance of recession in the next 12 months, and it never happened.
Right.
So I look at, everyone loves to try to predict recessions because it makes them sound smart, but ultimately I think that you get more value out of it for your own life as, an individual trying to make economic decisions, or as an investor trying to make portfolio decisions, by just taking it as it comes. Like, you're going to react to whatever data's there. If we have a recession, I'm sure you'll hear about it on our show.
Maybe.
I'm sure we'll cover it for at least an hour or so. I promise you we will. But economists have been predicting imminent recession for the last 2.5 years now.
Any predictions when it comes to the market or recessions, it's hard to put a tremendous amount of weight in them because of how difficult it is to get accurate. It's almost impossible to get accurate consistently.
And not all recessions are the same.
Yep.
You can have a small recession that whacks the market
2020
bigly. You could have a huge recession that doesn't do much to the market at all. And so the focus on recession or not, as we've been saying for a few years, kind of overblown. Quick break here. We've got the trivia answer next.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Life estates carry a higher risk of income tax penalties and hidden gift issues. And while they can be beneficial in some cases, if you use one, you need to be aware of the pitfalls they may cause. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law and have nearly 40 years of experience helping families with their estate planning. Their new guide, called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates, can help you make the right decisions about how to protect your assets from probate and the nursing home. Life estates are not simple documents and can create the potential for you to lose control of your estate. So if you haven't done your planning yet, now's the time to learn about the effects that life estates can have when it comes to protecting your assets. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and request their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Managing money can be overwhelming. Investments, retirement, taxes, where do you even start? This is Susan Powers, and today I'm joined by Michael Armstrong, co-host of the Financial Exchange and the president of Armstrong Advisory Group, to break it down. First question, Mike. What's the biggest reason someone should work with a financial advisor?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Like, a financial advisor can help you set and reach financial goals, whether that's saving for retirement, buying a home, protecting your estate. They can create personalized strategies that align with your income and expenses and risk tolerance. Plus, financial planning just isn't one and done. Typically, you'll adjust your plan as life changes. And so having somebody that's knowledgeable alongside there that can guide you through those different stages of life is really important.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about people who think that they can manage their finances and investments on their own? What do they miss out on?
Look, I'm not blind to this. Some people can, and it requires a bit of an honest self-assessment. But if you're not looking at key factors like tax strategies, investment risk, long-term planning, those are areas where financial advisors can really help to come in, maximize returns while keeping an eye on risk-adjusted returns, optimizing asset allocation, and just minimizing those unnecessary risks that we see so frequently taken by folks. So there can be a place for one in people's lives, but it's not a one for everybody.
If you want professional financial guidance, reach out to the Armstrong Advisory Group today to request your free copy of our new guide, What Can a Financial Advisor Do for Me? Call 800-393-4001 to start securing your financial future. That number again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, which heavy metal band did Ozzy Osbourne co-found back in 1968? It's Black Sabbath. He was the lead singer for the band until his firing in 1978. Winner today of the Financial Exchange Show t-shirt was Chris from Merrimack, New Hampshire. Congrats to Chris. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Piece in the Bloomberg. Nvidia chart watchers brace for more pain with dip buyers at bay. I don't know. I mean, yeah, Nvidia stock hasn't been good lately. Hasn't been good for a while, actually. Let's be completely honest. So, fascinating thing with Nvidia right now. I'm looking at it as of live, this very moment. It's trading just below $115 a share. The first time that it crossed this threshold, and that was at actually like this exact level, was May 28th of last year. It's been almost 10 months and the stock hasn't moved. Well, it's moved. It went up and then down. And so you look at this, and I think the reasons are pretty straightforward. It still is, and this is exactly what we talked about for all of last year also, by the way, which is it's a fantastic company. It prints money hand over fist. Mm-hmm. But the growth rate is slowing, and if you want to maintain the ability to grow your stock, 200, 300, 400% each year, it can't just happen in a vacuum. Like, that's just, it's not real. Like, it doesn't work like that. And so this is one of those consolidations that it could get worse. Like, there's a case to be made that it could get a lot worse there. It might just level out here and hang out here for a few years. Like, you don't know exactly what it's going to do because there are so many factors that could influence how, this particular business and industry evolve. But this is the danger with buying very highly priced stocks. It's not necessarily that they fall apart. I mean, sure, if you bought at the peak at like 153 and now you're down 25%, you're kind of like, yeah, that doesn't feel very good. But hey, you could also buy it and maybe it just doesn't go anywhere for like 2 or 3 years. Or maybe it doesn't go anywhere for a decade like Microsoft stock back in the 2000s. Like you just don't know. It's not that Nvidia is going to go out of business because, at least at the moment, again, you never know what the future holds, like all the caveats. They're too good of a company right now to go out of business anytime in the near future. But do they have to go up? Well, no. Like, stocks don't just go up.
No, to me, this is healthy behavior
Yes.
from NVIDIA's perspective. They were growing at a revenue rate of almost doubling every single year. I think I had done out their yearly revenues for fiscal years where they were sitting at $27 billion for 21 and 22, and for 23 and 24 you saw it grow from maybe 30 to 60, and now they're running at an annualized rate of $140 billion. Again, all those are rough numbers, but you can see the doubling effect that you saw from a revenue perspective. It's almost impossible to duplicate that every single year. And I brought this up on the show previously. Think about any business owner out there. Doubling your revenue in a given year is a tremendous accomplishment and really hard to go out and do again in the next year. So what you see from a valuation perspective is the stock had been upwards of, I think we had said 600 or 700% over a course of a couple of years. It has leveled off to
and
a
was
point.
Trading like 48 times forward earnings.
That's what I was just going to get to, is now we're sitting at a spot. No worries. Now we're sitting at a spot of 25 times forward earnings, and I know on a price to earnings basis it was 95 at one point. So it's grown into its valuation. I look at the business. I'm not even going to comment on the technical stuff because I don't really get into that world. To me, it's, if you're investing in Nvidia, do you believe in its business going forward? There are certainly hurdles out there. There's a tremendous amount of competition. We've talked about that. They have high margins, which are being chased. But the bottom line is, for the development of the AI infrastructure, it is something that is a critical part in the supply chain, in its design of chips and servers and things like that. Until that dominant market share is eroded, where I think they have 2/3 or more of the market share, until that's eroded, it's a great company. It has great revenue and great fundamentals to it, but it may, flatline for a little bit here.
Can we talk about, Paul, when you think about publicly traded companies that are the face of AI, can you name like 3 or 4 for me?
Nvidia's one. Palantir gets grouped in there as well. Microsoft, with its ties to OpenAI, is a third, though from a profitability standpoint, it's a speck on the balance sheet. And Meta would be another, and then probably Amazon fifth with Anthropic. Google ahead of Meta because of the Gemini AI piece. But from a revenue perspective, if you looked at all those companies, you'd be like, Paul, this doesn't even show up anywhere. It's more headline-based.
So I got something fascinating. So Palantir obviously is trading just nuttily. It's still 152 times forward earnings, which is down from a couple weeks ago when it was 225 times forward earnings. But let's strip that out just because that's kind of a weirdo. Nvidia right now, trading 25 times forward earnings. Microsoft, 29x. Google, Alphabet, 18x. Meta, 25x. So they're all like 18 to 30x, right? Here's something, and this has been the case for the last couple weeks now, but this is just kind of wild to me. Walmart, the company that sells predominantly groceries. Like, the majority of Walmart sales are groceries. And then they also sell, probably a lot of T-shirts and sweatshirts and apparel and
DVDs. I mean, they have like 100,000 SKUs or something. So
they sell very few things. But Walmart, it's boring old Walmart.
Yeah,
the sales grow at 3 to 4% a year. It's boring. It's trading 36 times forward earnings. 36 times forward earnings for Walmart. Now, what I think you can say, so here's something interesting, and this is not my original idea, but it's something that's been marinating in my head just the last 6 months or so, is there are two ways that multiples develop on stocks, in my opinion. The first is through, that high multiples develop. The first is through rapid growth. Okay, great. You're obviously willing to pay more for a company that's growing rapidly. But you're also willing to pay more for a company that's growing consistently. Because if a company doesn't have the threat of the bottom falling out, then you say, fine, I'm not as nervous about buying at this valuation because the bottom's not going to fall out of it. And so Walmart, you even go back to, a couple of years ago, mid 2023, early 23. This is after recession scares in the U.S. and stuff, or even during them. And Walmart was trading 22 times forward earnings. And so, it's kind of interesting to me because we always talk about earnings multiples and we're like, well, can you grow into those earnings and this and that? But part of the can you grow into it is your likelihood of hitting those earnings. And a company like Walmart might not grow earnings that quickly, but maybe it's got a higher likelihood of hitting those earnings, that earnings growth than other companies. And it still doesn't mean that it's cheap. You could still point to Walmart now and be like, yeah, 36x for, a company like that probably feels a little roasty, But I do think that there's an interesting thing in terms of not just earnings growth, but earnings consistency. I think matters when incorporating that into valuation as well.
And the optimism for the future. I mean, that is the Tesla story, which we'll cover, and Walmart too. There's a lot of optimism regarding the e-commerce growth that they've shown over the last 8 to 10 quarters. It's been pretty steady.
If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean Paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Let's talk a little bit about Tesla. We got a piece in the New York Times. Tesla sales in Germany, we got the data yesterday, and they fell by 76% year over year. This despite German EV sales overall being up 31%. And so there's a real problem with Tesla demand right now, it seems. And it's unclear how badly this is going to impact the company's stock from here. But when you're talking about declines of that magnitude for a car company with all of the capital expenditures that you have, it becomes very challenging to operate in that environment without making significant cuts in order to survive. We're not going to have an earnings report for another month and a half or so. So we've got, a little ways to go, another 6 to 8 weeks before we are going to see how Q1 ends up for them. But it's not just in Germany. Across most of Europe, the data that we've seen thus far is, declines of 40 to 60% in a lot of cases. The data from China for January was down, I think, around 35%. I don't know that I've seen any data out of the U.S. in terms of their sales.
I haven't stumbled across any.
I don't know that I've seen any, but
we've read anecdotally that, obviously a lot of their contingency from a purchase standpoint is California, and I do believe that there's been declines there, but I just don't have the numbers in front of me.
So we'll have to see where this goes, but Tesla at this point has now reversed all of its post-election bump prior to the election on November 5th. It traded up to $255 a share. It's now at $261 it got to yesterday, so maybe not all of it. It's like 3% above, but this is a stock that had almost doubled and now has given back almost 50% of its value. So we'll have to see where this goes, but it does appear that Tesla has a real demand problem on its hands, and we'll have to see how badly that's impacting the fundamentals of the business in the next quarterly report. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Stack Roulette.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Life estates are complicated, and they can cause problems if you're using them to protect your assets from the nursing home. Don't risk losing control over your estate. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Developing the right financial strategy can be complicated, especially in today's economic climate. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the most important pieces to this puzzle is the trust you have with the advisor you choose to work with. We've written a brand new guide called What Can an Advisor Do for Me? In it, we discuss a host of reasons why picking the right one can be critical to your peace of mind as you age. A financial advisor is much more than someone who simply manages your money. A financial advisor can help you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your portfolio, the various changes you may need to make to achieve your goals, and the way you may be able to protect your assets as you enter your retirement years. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Paul, what do you got for me for the roulette of the stack?
Concert ticket prices, Chuck. They're soaring and they're busting Gen Z's budgets. A personal anecdote here. My wife and I are big country music fans, and there was an announcement that Morgan Wallen's coming to Gillette this summer.
It's a big venue for it.
It's a huge
venue.
Yeah. Typically Kenny Chesney is an annual fixture at Gillette, and so immediately I went to go look at what the ticket prices would look like because I thought that would be a fun night out for my wife and I, get a babysitter for the kids, and my goodness, were they high. I believe the least amount you could spend, we're talking 300 sections, was close to $1,000. 800.
That was the cheapest?
Yeah, that was the cheapest out there. I'll
What?
make sure to double check me on that. Tucker can quote me on that phrase on there. But it was just so exorbitant, Chuck, that immediately we turned to each other like, we could fly down to Florida or something.
I don't think you're looking at the right thing.
Is it?
I got $160.
Oh, wow. Jeez. My wife screwing me. Oh my gosh. What is she talking about?
I got you can be down on ground level for $500. I'm not saying you should spend $500, but
oh my goodness, she's screwing me here. All right, I got something to talk about.
I'm sitting there, I'm like $1,000.
That's what she said.
Like Taylor Swift,
I was like, we should do it. That's it's a great concert to see. Regardless of my personal anecdote, which now has blown up in flames. I'm glad you checked me on it because now I'm going to tell her we should look to buy these tickets because this is a little bit more reasonable. But the point means, from a data perspective, it was inflation adjusted. The average for a concert was $52 back in 1996. Again, adjusted for inflation to see the top 100 tours out in the country. As of 2024, that average ticket cost is $135. So 3 times more inflation adjusted for a ticket at a concert. There's examples on here where this one particular individual went to 7 Taylor Swift concerts through the United States and Canada.
What'd you do? Take out a mortgage?
$8,400 she spent on tickets, merchandise, and travel. The reason I thought Morgan Wallen was close to $1,000 is because these Taylor Swift tickets were in and around that ballpark. He's obviously not as popular, but is still quite popular. So the bottom line is, ever since it seems like the Live Nation merger, where the amount of competition in the space, which I think that's still being regulated through the antitrust, they're still trying to wind through that.
Yeah, there's still a consent decree that they're under, and I know that the FTC had reopened an investigation into them because they thought they may have been violating the consent decree, so we'll see what happens on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, concert prices have gotten nuts. I do agree, and it's not just like they make the case on this that, like Beyonce tickets are expensive. Well, yeah, of course. If you're going to see one of like the 3 most popular artists on the planet,
right?
They're always nuts. Like, that's always been the case. But even for, again, kind of that tier down, like the top 100 tours of the year, you look at it and you're like, man, there's really something that is happening there. Now, part of this is, I think you can also attribute to, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. There is something to be said for venue size being the problem and being able to play in the right venue, because you go back to 1996 and the U.S. population was 30% smaller. So you had fewer people competing for the same number of tickets. Like the TD Garden in 96, it had just opened. It's the same size today.
Right.
And so like the Boston metro area has more people. And Boston in and of itself, no. But the Boston metro area has more people in it. New England as a whole, because, people drive down from New Hampshire and up from Rhode Island and stuff like that. There are more people competing for those 18,000 seats. And so part of it is supply and demand. Now, this also does get at, there's sometimes like where I see someone who's playing the Garden, and I'm like, how is that person playing the Garden? Like, not just once, but like how are they playing the Garden back-to-back nights? Who are the 40,000 people that want to see that person?
Yeah.
But they fill it, and part of that is just there's more people. So what might have previously been one night at the Garden or like 3 nights at, I don't know, what's like whatever, like
the
Great Woods or something like that.
Xfinity, yeah.
Xfinity.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Okay, now they move from doing 3 nights there to a night at the Garden, and that works. So I don't know. There's something that's broken. The other thing that, just as someone who like does love going to concerts, the downfall of these small venues in every city is a real problem. I think of the places that I used to hang out at when I'm 20, and this is not like oh, woe is me, like when I was younger, everything was better. But you lose the access to those up-and-coming bands and performances that you would see in 50 or 100-person venues that just don't exist anymore because the economics don't make sense for them in today's world.
Sure. We've still got locally... There's MGM Music Hall. Did that take over for House of Blues, or that's a separate venue?
No, separate.
Okay, so House of Blues is kind of another one too, but I know what you mean. The Foxborough is a tough slog.
No, I think of all like TT the Bears. That's gone now. Johnny D's is gone. R Woods is gone. Atwoods is gone. I think so. It's like you got a lot that are gone. Quick break for the entire rest of the day. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Financial Exchange.